don't know about you, but when I see a bike brand taking their product images with a backdrop of guitar amps and pedals, I think these are my kind of people. Massacan is a tiny bike brand based out of France, and frankly, what they offer breaks my brain. This is their Paula, their aggressive gravel bike. It's £1,210 for a frame set, handmade in Italy, and the mad bit? They offer custom geometry for no extra cost. Welcome to First Look, the series where we check out new and interesting bits of tech and give you the rundown on the stuff that actually matters. Let's get into it. We emailed and asked them to borrow a frame set for this video, and they said yes, this is not sponsored and we are not being paid. The frame is a size small, one of their off-the-peg geometries, and is CADE alloy tubing, T47 bottom bracket with a carbon fork, including the steerer, and we've built it up with our stuff. SRAM Rival Explore, a 1x group set with hydraulic brakes and wireless shifting, Zip 303S wheels with Vittoria gravel tyres, Zip service course bars, Pro seat post, and Cell San Marco saddle. Finished off with Garmin Rally pedals, who are a channel sponsor. I mentioned the price of the frame set earlier, but there's a few caveats. The price on the website is 1,210 quid, when we log on in the UK at least. But because we're no longer in the EU, we got hit with custom duties. And that will be the case for anyone outside of the EU. Something to bear in mind and worth checking if you're going to order one. They offer a couple of different colour options for that price, and then a custom colour option for £250 more. The colours you can choose from are all inspired by Fender Guitars offerings, which is obviously sick as f***. Turns out they got it right first time in the 60s.
We're now going to weigh the bike. Usual method, there's basically nothing on it apart from a Garmin out front mount and a little doobie. Oh, fucking hell. And it weighs 9.23 kilos. Obviously, this is our own custom build, so it's kind of irrelevant. What I can tell you, though, is I did weigh the frame and the fork before we built anything on it. The frame was 1,723 grams, and the fork was 488 grams, if you want to be that specific to the gram.
So Massacan use CADE tubing for a lot of their frames. CADE is an interesting company. It's actually two companies, an Italian family. CADE Components, they make the stems and bars, you've probably seen them, one of my favourite handlebars, and they make tubing, steel tubing, aluminium tubing, two levels of aluminium tubing. They do the Aegis, which is the super high-end lighter one, more expensive, and then they do Fire, which is what this is made out of. I said aluminium back then, I'll actually correct myself slightly. The top end one has scandium in it, a slightly different alloy, more expensive to manufacture. Why have we picked here to do this? Cameraman! Why is our cameraman so strong?
Who is this for? They say that this bike is dynamic and fun, designed mainly for adventure and bikepacking. It's got mudguard mounts, it's got rack mounts, it has extra holes for bottle cages, internal cable routing, and 50mm tyre clearance. Very generous. Everything you'd want from a versatile bike designed for adventure riding. Of course, £1,210, despite being extremely competitive for what you get, is a lot of money. So I imagine this is the kind of bike someone would be looking at after they've spent a decent amount of time being interested in bikes. Or if you're well rich and you just want a really nice first bike, go for it. It's custom and a bit different and feels special. Of course, there's nothing stopping you from riding this without bags on it, unloaded. And this is the more aggressive of the two gravel bikes that they make. The angles are tighter, so it's going to feel more twitchy and fun on the trails, but perhaps a little bit less stable at high speeds. Finally, the branding is just rock and roll. The people behind it are rock and roll. And sometimes you just want to support small businesses. Massacan is just 3 people. Buy the bike that speaks to you.
So the reason this video is even happening is because the founders of Massacan got in touch with us. And one of them, at least, is a long-term listener to the podcast and the videos that we make. And he got in touch and basically invited us to stay with them in Nice and have some pizza and hang out. And as with most people that ask us to travel places, we typically say no. However, it did cause me to have a look at their website, and instantly it looked cool, it looked interesting, it got my attention. And there's one of their bikes in particular, which is not this one, that most got my attention. It was a custom carbon, I think they call it the Carbonara. And at that point, we were deep in the point of trying to find a custom bike for Emily. So it just intrigued me that they do a custom carbon Italian-made bike for what I think it works out at about £2,800, and I had to find out more. So what's the best way to find out if a bike brand's legit? Ride their bikes. So I said, send me some bikes so we can test them.
I've been second guessing myself about my pronunciation of Paula, but I think it is Paula. Look, it's a French and Italian company. How are you supposed to pronounce Paula? 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 Paula. I'm going to ask the man.
Yeah, no problem about the pronunciation. It's pronounced the way you want. In French, we say Paula, but in Italy, I guess they say Paola. So whatever way you pronounce it will be fine. No problem. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
See? I told you I was right. Anything goes. Should we go that way?
Safety. Now, we don't usually include a section on safety in these first look videos. However, we covered a story recently on our podcast which tackled this issue. There was an incident where a Planet X customer was injured following a crash caused by a snapped carbon fork. It opened the discussion over what kind of testing is being done on gravel bikes before they make it to market. Are they just being tested as road bikes? Because people certainly aren't just riding smooth gravel trails anymore. It's becoming more and more extreme, especially when they're coming with 50mm tyres like this bike is. We quizzed Massacan on this, and they came back to us with a pretty satisfying answer, which is it's tested under exactly the same regulations as a mountain bike. They're held to the same standard, and this is awesome to see. Where appropriate, we'll continue to ask this question in future episodes.
I quite like the bike. It does everything you would expect it to do, and it doesn't do anything badly. It reminds me of this ice cream. It's ice cold and delicious, and often spoilt by Francis.
Sizing. Bit of a strange situation here because they do offer custom geometry for all of your sizing needs. I mean, in their words, if you're shaped like a T-Rex, you can go fully custom. Having said all of that, the off-the-peg sizes are very sensible. We often find small sizes are quite limited from bike brands, and would like to see even smaller sizes from Massacan than the extra small they currently offer, as an off-the-peg option.
Since filming this, I found out they're already planning on adding an extra small size to their geometry chart, but the charts haven't been updated yet.
I think it would lead to more sales if they shouted about it, as there's just so few options on the market for, say, a woman under average height. It feels to me as if this is the time to be one of those brands and try and get more people riding. Now, custom geometry at no extra cost. I did a double take the first time I read this. Then we emailed them to double check and make sure it wasn't a mistranslation. Then we emailed them again because we still didn't quite believe it. But it turns out it's true. Custom geometry made in Italy for 1,210 quid. It's amazing!
As Francis said, they do offer custom geometry at no extra cost. However, they're pretty confident that 99% of their customers are perfectly suited in one of their off-the-peg bikes. They were saying that they like to reserve the custom geometry for people that need it. So, most women, because as we know, the bike industry basically doesn't make bikes that fit them, and people that have requirements that just sit outside of normal geometries. Some people have really long legs and shorter arms, and they need something that's custom. So it's amazing that they're actually offering this at no additional cost. If you're one of the people that does fit an off-the-shelf bike, don't be a dickhead and ask for a custom geometry one.
Livability. I have a feeling this bike is going to score high. It's going to be easy to live with. Yes, there's a little bit of internal routing to neaten things up, but it's nothing complicated or difficult. Seat post clamp is external, it's a regular bar and stem, through axles thread in easily and feel smooth, the extra bottle cage mounts and rack mounts is awesome, and a T47 threaded bottom bracket. That's a bit like BSA, but slightly bigger bearings. And home mechanics will rejoice, because you don't need to buy a big fancy press, you just need a couple of tools, which some of like the toolkits from Amazon will have in. Granted, it's a very, very fine thread, but that's always the case with these BBs. You just have to be careful to make sure you put them in the right way. And a confident home mechanic should be able to do it no problem. Awesome design choices for this kind of bike. Well done, Massacan.
You can definitely tell this is the sprightly frame. There's a bit of toe overlap, but it does feel really fun when you're on the more twisty bits.
There's loads of bikes out there in a similar category to the Paula. So if you like the look of this, you might want to check out the Boca by Mason. They're also Italian made and look gorgeous. A Kinesis Tripster AT+, which is the one with the bigger tyres, perhaps not as flashy, but seriously good value. And a Genesis Fugio, another one at a great price. There is one negative that we need to talk about. This bike arrived with a dent in the head tube. A bit like this one, which is on a different Massacan. We emailed them about this and got a very long reply, and apparently this isn't the first time this has happened. To the point where the guys who run Massacan designed and 3D printed a bung that clips into the head tube during transport so this kind of damage doesn't occur during shipping. And that's where they think it's happening. Because of this thing they designed, they didn't have a problem for ages, so they went back to using bubble wrap, and then, well, this happened. And they got a horrible email from us saying, your frame's got a dent in.
To be fair to them, they have said that they are now going to reinstate the 3D printed bungy thingamajiggy.
Probably a good idea.
And it looks like, well, they sent over some images of how they ship complete bikes, which is with a special wrappy thing that goes all the way around. So it does seem to be limited to when they're sending frame sets, which I think they also said was 1 in every 9 of the bikes that they sell.
They said in an email that any customer with a similar situation would be given a completely new bike. They just have to send it back. Oh, and we used a tool to bend this head tube back, which I would never recommend doing. It was just for the video.
Every time they've emailed, the level of detail is huge. They're clearly very, very passionate about bikes. They do know what they're doing. They did explain that they do massive amounts of QC, and when they shipped bikes out to people,
Massive.
there aren't any issues with them. So it is a shipping issue, or it seems to be a shipping issue. It's nice to see people behind a brand that are clearly incredibly passionate and just absolutely love the bikes that they're making.
Unlike Nick, who did this bar tape. Zero passion.
Right, it's cool wall time. Where do we think this sits? In many ways, it's absolutely fantastic. There is nothing wrong with it, but it isn't the most exciting bike to ride. It's what you would expect it to be. It's a really good alloy bike. What I love about Massacan is, for some people, they are a god tier brand. They're super cool. Their colors are absolutely mint. For the people that need it, they do custom geometry in all of their bike models. That is perfection in a brand. Like, it doesn't get better than that. It's not god tier, but I do really, 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 really like it. Where you at, Fran?
It's proper good, but it's going on the edge of want because it's got a bear drawn on it. Is that a bear? Is it a bear? What happens if this brand is no longer niche? Are they still going to offer the custom thing?
What I do know, however, is their updated road bike is going to have clearance for 40mm tyres. Now that does excite me.
Maybe it's got tier. Maybe it's Maybelline.